Hello everyone, welcome back to Pixel Village and I am Radha Krishnan. Well, I am going to talk about white balance once again. Well, we had a couple of white balance videos done long back. I'll add link in the description, which was pretty popular. Lots of people seem to have liked it, engaged with Pixel Village. We had a lot of exchanges of comments and stuff like that. And now we are in 2023. I have some other thoughts. It's absolutely not new, but maybe I'd like to present another point of view about white balance. Why? Because color is highly subjective. The way you see color need not be the way I see color, correct? Hence, I'd like to propose, again, let me tell you, this is not new. I did not invent it. It's just another point of view of looking at white balance in your camera, because white balance is something which I have realized that really puzzles a lot of photographers. I've seen photographers walking into a venue and trying to start guessing the white balance and trying to kind of physically key in the Kelvin values into the camera. I mean, obviously, anybody will tell you that chances of him going wrong is very high, because he's working with tons and tons of variables, including his own eye and the perception of color, leave alone the inferior quality LCDs and adulterated lights in the scene and things like that. Anyway, that's another debate altogether. But what I'm trying to tell you is probably the easiest way. Well, our life as photographers used to be much easier during the film days. So I want to kind of refer back to how we as photographers who came from a film era used to handle white balance. Barring the commercial photographers, all used to have access to just two types of films. I'll talk about the commercial photographer in just a bit. You had a daylight balanced film and you had a tungsten balanced film. So daylight balanced film is what you would use if you are shooting in sunlight or in the studio using your flashlight. The film is balanced for 5500 Kelvin. Any variations in the light will be recorded as that particular variation, whether warm or cool will be recorded by the film. Now, lots of cinematographers and lots of interior photographers used to use something called tungsten balanced film, because tungsten was the most popular lighting tool indoors and as well as in film sets. So they would use a tungsten balanced film to reproduce their white as white. The commercial photographer's job is a little more exacting, so he will want all his colors in his frame to be exactly reproduced. So he would use something called a color meter and also a set of color filters to compensate for the excess or the lack of color in the source of light that they are using in order to reproduce the white as white. Okay, now that's the point where I want to stop talking about film and jump straight into digital. Now, contrary to the film, in the digital domain, you are spoiled with choices, right? You have a range of white balances to choose from. You also have a very high range of ISOs to choose from. I mean, the options are so much so that, well, instead of taking them to your advantage, we all tend to kind of get a little confused. Now, that's where I would like to propose or suggest or recommend this new way of, it's not exactly new, the old way of looking at white balance. So to explain that, I'm sitting in this wonderful resort by the sea. I can see the setting sun there and there's nice breeze flowing and all that. And of course, I am enjoying my masala chai. Well, if beer is your option, you can enjoy that too, of course. And aren't you getting the feeling that this is all that just I said is true? How did you get that feeling? Because first thing, setting sun has a warm light, correct? And then the sea, the waves are creating that noise, correct, or sound, you can listen to it. And of course, there are some moving objects in the frame. That's how we get the feeling, right? Now, let's see what will happen if I knock off the most obvious identifiable thing of a setting sun and see it's the warm light. Okay, so what I'm going to do is to do a white balance and come back to you. All right, I just white balanced my camera and set it to 2800, which is the setting sun's color temperature. Now, where am I now? Am I enjoying my sunset? Am I by the side? If I switch off or cut off the sound of the sea, well, keep the sea. I am probably on a, I don't know where I am, probably mid-sun. It can be anywhere. If I cut off the sea sound, I can be anywhere. So, to give you an idea, what we did was, in the earlier occasion, we followed the old thumb rule. We shot it as if my camera has only a daylight balanced film, which is 5500. Now, there is, of course, there are many classifications in white balancing. So people set, depending on which part of the globe you are, your mid-sun, mid-day sun's temperature can change from 5000 to 6500, depending on where you are. So we take something in the middle. But to drive a point home, I'd like to tell you that probably it is better to keep it as 5500 so that the camera sees all colors the way the camera is supposed to see in that particular type of color and color temperature. And if you correct it, you are actually going to be losing the actual feel of that ambience and the place. And I know we can argue that I'm going to shoot it like this, I'm going to add the right amount of color in post. Totally accepted. But the situation is that majority of us don't really work in ideal post-production situations. Many of us don't really have a high-end color calibratable monitor and working conditions to see color well. Now the camera can see, because I've not messed around with the camera's white balance, I've not messed around with the camera's bias control. Camera has recorded the data the way it is, and it is going to give you what it saw. As long as you don't fool around it in your post-production, you're going to get exactly the same results. Now, this is true for all the JPEG shooters and the people who shoot other compressed formats, but it's true even for RAW. The reason is that unless you reset your shoot setting, the shooting image setting, even the RAW will reproduce in front of you or show in front of you as the way it is shot, unless you reset your camera settings. Those features are available in Capture One Pro and also in Lightroom and in Photoshop and all those places. So as long as you keep the original camera setting, you will see the light exactly like this. Stills, videos, all exactly the same way. A video, of course, for stills. Now, I am showing this to you through a video so that you can understand. I don't want to waste time trying to shoot another set of images and post and show you and all that. I want to avoid that. Hence, I'm kind of showing you in my video itself. I can do it with a still image as well. The feeling will exactly be the same. Now, imagine that instead of the sea, I want to imagine that I am in a country where there's winter and it's snowing outside, and of course there is this cool sun wafting into the room. This is my breakfast coffee, all right? And that's how I want to do this. So what I'm going to do is, though I have a bicolor lamp, that lamp will not go down below anything lower than about 6,000 at best. So I'm going to add a blue filter in front to add more blue to it. So let me come back to you with that. How does it look? Hey, You guys have not changed the temperature. It's still at 2800. So sorry. This is not winter. This is actually night shot. This is how people used to shoot day for night and night for day and things like that. Anyway, that's another video altogether. Okay, let's go back to 5500. Yes. How does it look now? Except an inappropriate clothing that I'm having now. Everything else looks like wintry, right? A winter morning, coffee, and that's how, a neutral setting like 5500 will convey this light. This is true of any situation. Since we are at it, let's also measure this light. And when you measure this light, let's go back to 6500 and see how, which that's how it will be actually corrected, right? The whites will be corrected by most of us. Let's see how it's going to turn out to be. Okay, let's quickly set it to 6500. How does it look to you? The white is white. You don't have that. It's basically a cultural understanding, right? The desert is usually warm. Setting sun is warm. Winters are cool. So these are our cultural understanding. Now, how do you use a tool like a camera to convey that? Well, if you correct your white to white, you may not exactly convey it. Yes, I completely accept the argument that you can fine-tune it in post. Well, then you are introducing a ton of new variables into your workflow. Well, as Puritans, photographers of yesterday's never used to like to fool around with their color, very unlike what we are now used to, especially the Instagram era. We just go to town with our saturation scale, vibrancy, and contrast, right? We just use it the way we feel like. But the disciplined photographers from the yesteryears, I've seen photographers becoming furious for manipulating the colors. Now, this is true of a certain type of photography, and commercial photographers definitely want to stay with the way they saw the colors. But the wedding photographers will encounter a little more complicated situation than this. It's not about just the white light and the variation from warm to cool. They will also encounter colors, right? They will have, these days, with the advent of, or with the possibility of using any color that you want from your mobile phone, the challenges which the wedding photographers face are also tremendous. Now, that color cannot be exactly managed with just the white balance control. So if you are going to go to a venue looking at the ambient lighting, which includes ton of colored lighting, and trying to guess a white balance value, I think you can be in a lot of mess. But yeah, we are still happy with the situations, but I'd like to definitely propose an idea of trying to shoot with a daylight balanced camera setting and not touching that, and continue shooting with it and shoot raw. Of course, you also shoot your JPEG because many of them would like to deliver the JPEG, but keep the raw so that you can work with it. Well, that's a prime thing. You buy these expensive exotic cameras and you shoot JPEG, that's nothing short of a crime according to me. So you should be shooting raw and then work with the raw. Like I said, keep all the camera settings so that you need to worry about only your histogram. You correct your exposure, you do your global corrections, and stay with that color feel. This, I think, will be a great way for many photographers, especially travel photographers, landscape, street, interiors, anywhere except, let's say, like I said, when you're getting into a very highly colored lighting conditions like a wedding, you may use your discretion. But again, I'm certain that if you stay with the daylight balanced film feel, you will be able to reproduce everything. Now, for example, let me, for argument's sake, let me go back to our first situation, a warm light by the sea, right? And let me come back and sum up this video. Okay? Back to my seashore. Where's the breeze? Okay, there you go. So 5500, and the camera will reproduce the colors perfectly. Now, this is just a suggestion, correct? I have not invented anything. It's just trying to tell you, this actually will reduce the kind of all the anxieties that you have about white balance. And this is how people have been working all this while. Unless you are working on those color critical jobs, this probably will be the best way that you can adopt and shoot and get good, nice, interesting images. Bye for now.